Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports, college and professional athletes behaving badly.
Also, an NFL quarterback misses the birth of his child, and cops go undercover in Seattle.
All that and so much more, and it all starts right now. Hello and welcome to One-on-One Sports. I'm Jake Soder.
And I'm Ryan Ballack. We have a great show for you today, so let's get things started with the starting five.
Just when it appeared as if Johnny Football would be public enemy number one for the NCAA this football season, Oklahoma State University and the SEC stripped him of that title. A report has surfaced that from 2000 to 2011, several players on Oklahoma State committed some form of academic misconduct or had schoolwork done for them. This is in addition to a report by SI.com saying that players received cash payments from people associated with the program, starting around when Les Miles began coaching the team in 2000. In addition, 5 former SEC players allegedly accepted illegal benefits. Ryan, is there anything the NCAA can do to catch these guys red-handed as opposed to after the fact?
I really don't think there is.
I agree.
mean, there are just so many people involved with all these schools, and there just isn't enough manpower with the NCAA. There's not enough money. There's not enough time. I mean, if the NCAA devoted all this time to spying after all these organizations, they wouldn't have enough time to make sure all their programs are running right and all their games are being played correctly. It's just, I don't think there's not enough time. It just doesn't
because
work.
what's been the common denominator throughout all these allegations and all these scandals? It's money.
Yeah, always.
So in order to police that, they would have to check everybody's financial records, and they don't have the time or the resources to do that.
Well, especially to catch them right on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we're hearing about these stories 2 or 3 years after the fact.
I mean, these players are only after the money, so I think, honestly, I think the only solution is to pay these guys. Eventually, that's going to have to happen.
You're absolutely right. Ndamukong Suh was fined $100,000 for an illegal hit in Week 1. Not that anyone should be surprised. Off the field, Von Miller is currently serving a 6-game suspension for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy and got in trouble yet again this week for getting a citation for driving without a license. Jake, which player's image is worse for the NFL right now?
Well, I think it's Ndamukong Suh for this reason. There are a bunch of players that get in trouble off the field. Every year. It happens. It just happens. And Von Miller happens to be one of those
Von Miller's a pretty
players.
big name, though.
He's a pretty big name. He's still only a young player in this league, but he is just one of those guys. On the field, Ndamukong Suh is the biggest enemy of the NFL right now in terms of dirty plays and illegal hits.
He's pretty much turning into the new James Harrison now, and I mean, he's pretty much like Roger Goodell's victim number one. I didn't even think this hit that he had last week was that severe. So I still think it's Von Miller, to be honest with you. I mean, Ndamukong Suh still has this great public image. He's still doing all the Subway commercials, but still is really looking like a vicious animal on the field, honestly.
You want to like the guy, but the NFL has done so much to clean up the game on the field in the past few years in terms of dirty plays that if the guy's still doing it, I think he's got to be the worst image for the league right now. Weekly press conferences in the NFL are key to providing the media and the fans with insight into the possible storylines to watch for on game day. But now the front office is intervening. A memo was sent to teams saying that no one is allowed to talk about players on other teams in press conferences, taking the concept of the no fun league to a whole new level. Ryan, why would the NFL even need a rule like this?
You know, Jake, that's a phenomenal question. I have absolutely seen no reason why the NFL needs a rule like this. Forget the no fun league. This is the no information league. All we're going to hear about is our favorite friends on the team, our teammates' favorite colors, these new information, all this great new information. We're not going to hear about the other team anymore. How could you possibly do that?
Possibly even talk about
That's
it anymore?
what I'm
If you
saying,
can't talk about
ridiculous.
players on the other team, you pretty much can't talk about the upcoming game.
Absurd.
And that's all anyone wants to talk
the last
about.
game, we're going to be in a press conference. So what do you think about that throw? Oh, you know what? I'm not going to comment on the other team.
I'm not really allowed to
That's not
comment on
allowed.
that. The NFL doesn't allow me to comment on other players. It's ridiculous. I don't see. There's absolutely
ridiculous. I
no
totally agree with
reason
you.
for this mandate. It just doesn't make sense.
I completely agree with you. Rule number 1 when going to a sporting event: don't wear the opposing team's colors or gear. You're bound to hear some complaints from the home crowd. However, Sunday night, the Seattle Seahawks tried to prevent those rowdy fans from getting away with anything excessive by posting undercover cops in San Francisco 49ers attire. Jake, is this a good idea for safety, or is this a bad idea?
Well, I think it's a good idea because it'll deter people if they know what's happening, like they did before this game. They'll be less likely to act out if they see someone in a 49ers uniform because they might think it could be a cop. And as we know, there weren't any incidents reported from that game on Sunday night. So clearly they did something right.
Yeah, clearly it was a success. And these stands, I mean, fans do get really violent. I saw an article on Deadspin in week 1 that someone was pretty much able to make a glass shard that was pretty much a knife just straight out of a beer bottle that they purchased at the stadium. So these stadiums are getting dangerous, and the NFL needs to be more aware. And I think this is a good step, and it clearly worked. So maybe we'll see more of this in the future. From the NFL.
I hope so. I mean, if we can cut down on the amount of violence that are going on in NFL stadiums, we'll be well on our way to.
The only problem is it is going to require a lot more manpower to get all these more security, and they're going to move it from the upper level to the lower level. We'll see how intricate this process.
Yeah, I think it'll work though. We here at 101 Sports are obviously huge sports fans, but where do we draw the line? This past weekend, Baltimore Ravens quarterback and $120 million man Joe Flacco missed the birth of his second child to play in the Ravens game against the Browns. Ryan, do we value sports too highly in our society?
As much as it pains me to say this, because I'm absolutely a victim of this, it really is. I mean, the birth of your child, and you're Joe Flacco, you just signed one of the biggest contracts in NFL history. You're coming off the Super Bowl season. Yeah, it's your home opener, but this is the birth of your child. This is your family. I think that takes precedence over football, but people in society really didn't see this as a big deal at all.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that he definitely should have been there for the birth of his child. But the circumstances differ depending on who it is.
You could beat the Browns without Joe Flacco.
We saw a couple months ago, Hunter Mayhem was playing at the Canadian Open and was in the lead and left for the birth of his child. So I don't know if you can say generally that sports are way too important in society.
Some people.
But to some people and in some circumstances, like what happened with Joe Flacco, you can definitely make a case for it.
And certainly a league like the NFL, more so than every other league.
The biggest sport in the country by far.
Absolutely.
So. That's all the time we have for this A block, but next up, our AFC experts will sit down with Ryan and decide which teams need to panic and which teams need to stay calm for the time being.
Then Jake will talk to our NFC experts about some bold predictions for the upcoming season. Keep it right here. You're watching 101 Sports.